gear changing is fucking awful. I watched Twist of the Wrist 2 over the weekend, and it just kind of highlighted how bad my riding techniques are. And well, the good thing is it's also highlighted where I need to improve on. Gear changing is definitely one of them.
They call me Mr. Biker.
Yeah, so my gear change is awful. My cornering is shit. I'm still not using all the tyre. Chicken strips are about 1.25 inches, I would say. Maybe a bit less. Road positioning, still haven't got that down. And I've been riding for years. And I watched this Twist of the Wrist 2 on YouTube. Oh, it's just fucking awesome. It just explains everything in several different ways as well. It'll show you, the guy will kind of draw something up on a whiteboard. He'll explain the technique of what you're doing, whether that's to do with braking, throttle control, positioning on the bike, positioning on the road, whatever it is. They go over it a couple of times in different ways so you can really understand it. And what I like is they explain why you should do it that way, or why it's done that way, and also what happens if you don't do it that way. And it was just made so much sense. Now, it's not for the faint-hearted. It is it is an hour and a half long. But then again, riding a bike is not simply a matter of swinging your leg over and pulling away. There's a lot of intricacies in riding a bike that people who have never ridden or have not received any training would know nothing about. So it is that old adage, some people make it look a lot easier than what it actually is. And as usual, the reason they can do that is because they have practiced. Practice is the key. And concentration. Because if you stop concentrating, then you can find yourself not doing what you're supposed to be doing. For example, if you're not concentrating on making sure that the lower part of your body is nicely grounded to the bike, i.e. you've got a good grip with your legs, you'll find that your grip on the handlebar is getting tighter and tighter and tighter. It's because you still need to feel like you're not going to fall off the bike. And as it explains in the video, the less grounded the bottom half of your body feels, the more the top half of your body, i.e. your arms and your shoulders, are going to try and compensate. So, and we're not talking like doing a Vulcan death grip with your legs. It's just probably just applying a little bit more pressure than what you're used to. Especially if you're used to being sort of all floppy kneed, then you have to concentrate a bit and practice until it just becomes instinctual. And you can feel it straight away. The more you grip with your legs, even without thinking about it, your grip on the handlebar just lessens. And gripping with your legs for a journey, to keep yourself on the bike, produces a lot less rider fatigue than gripping really hard with your hands. Not only that, it allows the steering and on the bike to do what it's supposed to do, and generally kind of find its own way without too much input from the rider. So I would recommend anybody who rides a bike to watch Twist of the Wrist 2. There is a Twist of the Wrist 1, and it was kind of made in the 70s by the looks of it, maybe mid 70s. Kind of looks like a 1974 porn film or something, and it's quite confusing because the concepts that they've used to try and or the techniques they've used to try and explain the concepts don't really work. After a while you get more confused by what he's saying. He's gone off on this tangent about spending money and stuff, and you're thinking, well, how does this relate? But the new one, much better. That's probably why the new one is an hour and a half long. I think the old one's only just over 35 minutes or something. So don't bother watching the old one, but watch the new one, and you will get something out of it. Guarantee it. Unless you're Mr. Rossi, of course, and you already know all this stuff. But the point is that, and this is what people don't realise about track days, it's the practice and the development of the riding techniques that you learn on the track can directly be applied to riding on the road. Not everything. I mean, on a track you don't lane filter. So what I'm doing now, there is no practice for this on a track. But I get plenty of practice of this every day. But a little technique, if you look, how to cover your brakes. I was trying to cover my brakes before, but I always thought you needed to have your fingers over the brake lever, and in the video it explains you don't. It explains exactly why, because the action of throttling off is going to give you that final movement forward for your fingers to grip the lever. So your fingers don't, if your fingers are already over the lever, you're going to be trying to brake whilst not throttling off. So it's much more natural movement to throttle off, then brake in one sort of smooth motion, and because you're getting to apply your brake much quicker than if your hands weren't on it at all. And whilst we're only talking half a second or whatever, look at the distance you cover in half a second, and it gives you some good video footage of the different braking styles. It's quite interesting. The difference between using front brake only, rear brake only, which takes you like a mile and a half to stop if you're doing anything over 20 miles an hour. most rear brakes aren't designed for that. But the interesting thing is, if you use a combination of, you've actually got 3 braking mechanisms. You've got your front brake, you've got your back brake, and you've got the engine braking. So they tell you, don't pull your clutch in, because you're going to throttle off, your fingers are going to slide over the brake lever, you're going to start braking, you're going to start applying the rear brake. You've got 3 braking areas that are all working to slow you down. So whereas, you know, if you pull the clutch in, then you're not, that you've just got rid of one of them. But a lot of people do it, and I'm guilty of it. And that was because I didn't have a good braking technique. So that's what, again, that's what I like about the video. It shows you a technique, explains why that technique is good, explains what could happen if you don't use that technique, and then all you have to do is, you know, apply it, practice, and make it a natural part of your riding style.